These are some of the valuable things that role play games can facilitate. Role expansion, perspective taking. It encourages insight and foresight. It fosters problem solving, clarifies personal values, processing emotional experiences, practicing forms of social communication. I often will play the non-player characters. And when I know somebody is challenged by something, if, for example, if they just don't know how to deal with angry people, I may then create a culture of people who communicate through anger. And so when they get to this village where everybody expresses anger freely, we'll have to kind of find ways of being able to communicate with anger. So I will find out what their challenges are and fold them into the game as well as their strengths. It's a great way of breaking stereotypes, providing opportunities for organizational and reflective thinking. I'm not the only one who does this work. There's great therapists throughout the country who are doing role play games. This is something you can do at home. Most famously, of course, is Dungeons and Dragons. Critical Core has their own version of Dungeons and Dragons that has been designed specifically to work in a therapeutic way. It's called Critical Core. You can buy it directly from their website. It has some pre-made characters, and it is created with the developmental functioning model in mind. I always start with regulation. When I'm working with any client, I always start with regulation and then move up through these. The premise in the games is that I want us to move through all of these at the pace that the players are comfortable with. Again, it's that agency and giving them their agency. Knowing what kind of fun they like to have. There are different kinds of fun. And some people will think, oh, making things easy, not for 2E kids, right? 2E kids want that hard fun and that more engaging fun. There's two things I do want to mention. And again, I'm talking about games, but I think this can be applicable to any kind of activity that your kid has that genuine interest and passion in. Moving from cooperation to collaboration. Cooperation is a good place to start because people can have to learn compromise in terms of cooperation. But when they're working, when they're collaborating, when they're moving past cooperation into collaboration, they're actually honoring each other's abilities and building on each other's abilities and coming up with strategies and ways of incorporating everyone. And when a group gets to that place, it is such a beautiful thing to see in with a group of kids. And the other thing, and this is why I'm bringing this in, narrative transference. When we talk about kids who love specific kinds of stories, like anime, it's because they move from an observer into a participant. One of the things too I also find about roles is recognizing what roles your kid is comfortable with. When they're talking about something that they really love, they're in an expert role. And that's a role that has esteem in it. Narrative transference is a powerfully resonant emotional connection with a character, with a story. And in a game, we'll move from being an observer, and often when I'm starting a game, everybody is in an observing place, to being a participant and entering into the narrative and transferring all of their attention and their emotional energy into the game. And I have seen people express deeply existential concerns through the lens of role play games, engage in deeply emotional, where they'll come out and they'll go, I don't know where that came from, where they're expressing tears or they're expressing a longing that they may not even feel like they have in their life, but that they're recognizing that they're drawing from this narrative and it's coming from some authentic part of themselves. Role taking and role playing can be a really valuable way of engaging kids to engage with one another.